Hello everyone. This is Irene with SaugaTalks today. Hope everyone is doing well because I am enormously excited. And the reason I'm excited is because I'm running SaugaTalks weekly and I'm publishing and tweeting. Follow on Twitter, find videos on YouTube, and like, dislike, comment, or just follow the company SaugaTalks on LinkedIn, because that's where my guests interacting with me, and we have some very interesting conversation about trends, about tech, about future of business, and even cooler things as they come along. So today, I am absolutely amazed to have a speaker with me, a futurist, global ambassador, an author, and just a wonderful person. Ingrid, welcome to SaugaTalks.
Thank you for having me. It's a privilege to be here. Thank you.
Oh, no, privilege is all mine, because you're a futurist. And by futurist, what I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, so you know what's happening today and how it will lead us into the future. So please define, what do you mean by futurist?
Well, I think that's a great question to start with, because I never knew I was a futurist until other people called me one. So one of the elements when I started to look it up myself is that you're always a few years in advance to try to prepare the society and everything that we're dealing with for the future. And specifically from a technology perspective, digital futurist, right, is constantly pushing towards the emerging technologies that others are barely trying to adjust to. And we, in general, are perceived as those that push for faster adoption and mass adoption. And typically, you can have a futurist be 8 to 10 years in advance compared to the rest of the market, right? We're the early, not only adopters, but we're the ones that actually foresee what's going to come to the market in a few years from now. And of course, super famous ones, not my caliber, but more famous ones like Einstein and Nikola Tesla were several hundred years in advance. So that's what's considered a futurist right now.
I see. Let me convey my vision of the future. And my vision is that we do not distinguish anymore physical from virtual, tech from non-tech. Because as I do my work now with SaugaTalks, I rely on a lot of apps and a lot of products that I don't even think if they employing any AI features, because I know they do. So how do you find those awesome trends helping people today? And do you use the latest tech and how it improves your life?
Sure, I think definitely the way you conceptualize futurist is also very important, because there's another way to conceptualize it also that complements your view, is to think about all the technology as an exponential way to promote society innovation and progress, right? So for instance, if we think about it, every single day, everything we do from the moment we open our eyes until we go to bed is infused with technology. And when we say exponential technology, it means that you get 10 times the effect of all those technologies combined, as opposed to if you just do one. So let's take, on a daily basis, we interact with what is called AI, but it's actually a misnomer, because more correct, it should be augmented intelligence. There are always humans behind it that direct and guide it. So one is AI. Every single day, we have something, and I can give you a few examples of where artificial intelligence or augmented intelligence is interacting with how we sleep, how we eat, how we work, how we interact with our devices, how we drive, what happens to us when we work remotely, and how we're being monitored, how we get our money from the bank. I mean, we can go on and on and on, where artificial intelligence or augmented intelligence is part of our life, right? The second one that's very, very common, of course, these days, we all know about 5G networks that are looming, and as everybody knows, it's portrayed as the next internet and the next industrial revolution, right? And most of us know, when we interact every day with all our devices, we don't like to say, oh, I love it when my connection is slow, and I love it when I can't interact with all my devices as fast as I want to, right? We all want fast, we want now, we want faster and better, and being able to be on 5, 6 devices at the same time. So that's another element where between augmented intelligence and the 5G network, it really affects our interaction with the technology every single day. Those are just two very simple examples. And then the third very big one that I think, again, can be applied to almost everything we do will be the Internet of Things. These days, our television, our Alexa in our room, right? Our phones, everything we do when we drive, our GPS is connected to the Internet of Everything, the way it's called. So although we might think that that's just a topic for experts in the field, these days we can give examples for 3 months every single minute about how every single human, including infants these days, interact with technology, and all these affect their life. Does that help a little bit?
It helps a little bit. It helps a little bit. So I started with very personal level because I'm used to very personalized services in my life, right? Let's take it a notch a little bit to the groups in humanity, in society, in entire humanity, in human race, for instance. So relying on the tech more and more, right? And some of the futuristic experiences as being able to work from home, and not even if you need services, if you're a machinery operator, you can now operate your friend, your excavator out there, okay? We're seeing these amazing things. You don't need to be physically.
Absolutely. Well, I think we've seen several examples posted recently. We had flying cars just 2 days ago in Japan. We have several of the internet sales companies like Tencent in Asia. They are operated exclusively, all their warehouses, just by robots. That's it. The whole Tencent warehouse has only 5 robots operating all our orders from around the globe and doing very well, right? We have people operating airplanes. Just recently, DARPA posted how we had man go against a completely remote operated fighter jet, and guess who won? The remote operated fighter jet. So we have examples every single day how you have restaurants now having just completely remote controlled and robotic arms serving food. You can have drones deliver medications to your apartment or home. So it's been lately quite a big trend that all these technologies start to become ubiquitous and start to do the things that we consider absolutely expected in our normal life. It's not anymore in the lab and in the scientific institutes. It's very common that you have, even for institutions, they can deploy AI now to remote monitor how you interact with your device, so that you don't have to have any more human resource evaluations, and no one has to clock in and out anymore because you have a device that automatically monitors you. So all the facets of our life currently are actually affected by these emerging technologies and by the latest technologies.
Exactly, and here goes some concerns, right? For a number of years, we're hearing how automation is going to take up our lives, our jobs, our existence. So where do you see this automation is actually helping the society? One more kind of example here, because what I understand that companies who are relying on digital right now, they're hiring, they're not firing people. And that means that it just job market and job opportunities shifting from what used to be legacy, traditional businesses we all well understand, to some new reality. What do you think?
I think you're absolutely right. You said the key word, shifting. There will be a reshuffling, shifting, changing of emphasis. There is no doubt that with technology we'll have automation, but that has been the case with the Industrial Revolution too. I mean, we were all happy to have cars and industrial engines that could take over manual labor, right? To do it faster, better, and without injuries. So I think the same concept is going to happen now with what we call the 5th Industrial Revolution. It's just this time it's going to be all digital instead of mechanical, right? So there are examples where big elements such as providing large scale alternative energy source, right? Those are the kinds of jobs where there will be exclusively digital, or like we heard just a second ago, I mentioned some of the high risk jobs, right? The departments of defense around the world are trying to not put human lives at risk. So they will try to replace a lot of the high risk jobs in nuclear industry, you know, defense industry, in the food industry, where you need massive volume, right, of processing, with digital as much as possible. But that does not mean there will be no jobs. There will be just different jobs. And what I would recommend is that we focus on what are the skills needed for this new future. The same way, like several years ago, right, 100 years ago, we had to adjust to a new world. We all like electricity. If we had all been stuck on using candles, it would have not been so good, right? So I think as long as we focus on the new skills that are required, we will have more jobs and new jobs, but a different type of jobs. So my advice to everybody is to focus on the positive, that we should embrace change and look at the new skills we can all learn in this digitalized, globalized, highly virtualized environment.
Good. Give me an example. What kind of new skills?
Well, so one of the most common skills, if you look now at the top 10 jobs in demand and the skills required, definitely anything that has to do with augmented intelligence, such as machine learning, big data, data analytics is usually in the top. Blockchain skills are also high in demand. The ratio is 9-to-1, 8-to-1, 10-to-1, depending on what source you look, but it's definitely very high, meaning that there are more jobs than people with the skills required. Right? And the same way, if you look at all major universities and jobs that are posted, you will see the specific machine learning tools advertised. So if you know Python or many of the other similar types of tools, those are extremely not only in demand, but many companies offer to train you, offer to even find you the job when you're done with training. Not only that, but as many of you maybe saw in the social media recently, even major tech companies are starting to train people in advance with the promise that you get a certification and a job at the end. So I think definitely we see trends in these type of technologies. Absolutely. Robotics and nanotechnology, I would say, are right after.
Good, good. Yeah, definitely in line with what I've been hearing so far. So in terms of our new normal, because we do live in a little bit different world these days than what a few months ago, well, I would say beginning of the year, right? So that said, right, as company, we mentioned company shifting, people shifting their priorities and really understanding what's important, what's not, okay? So this new normal in a way that we interact with this outside world, how do you find future of work affected by this?
That's a complex question. So I think we need to address three elements here. One is the emphasis on purpose. So companies that are focused on purpose and focused on a culture to create a culture of impact seem to be much more successful lately since the pandemic and this shift. So that's one domain. The second domain is what we just talked recently, that being remote changes the whole paradigm from a human resource perspective. The way you interact with your supervisor, the way you are monitored, the way you show your work, the way you interact with teams, the way work is being assigned, the way you can complete your work, everything has changed, right? So it's not that the skills necessarily are completely different, but definitely the emphasis and the ancillary skills required to complete one's job have shifted, definitely. Can you still see me well?
Yeah, I see you.
Okay, great. Yeah. So when we already addressed the fact that the company's mission in this new environment is different, the way us humans interact within each company is different. And I think then the third part is there's no doubt that also the pace has changed. The pace, the requirement of being available at all times, right? The way you can be expected now to be available when it's virtual has completely changed. So those are some of the good things. I think the more concerning things that people have also expressed is that now there's no more privacy. There's much more concern for cybersecurity issues that need to be addressed, right? Because most companies had to go overnight to a complete remote environment. They were not accustomed to doing that. They had all the cybersecurity defense mechanism in place for their offices, right? And using only secure VPN gateways and all kinds of other tools that we usually use. And now you have people accessing their work from 15 devices at home from their living room. And who knows who else is using those devices. So definitely I can relate to all the concerns that people have from a cybersecurity perspective. I think also from an ethical perspective, right? People, and there have been a lot of reports published on this. The digital divide has unfortunately caused some to be concerned about a new form of discrimination, right? If I don't have good internet, unfortunately, I can't compete with someone that has great internet, right? Or if I am gonna have 5G and someone doesn't have 5G, and I can be, extremely versatile in adjusting to this new globalized world, it's gonna affect the competitive landscape between companies and between employees. So that's another perspective. And then I think the third part that if we look at what's being published by experts and the concern is that the social aspect of the culture within each company is going to be much harder. So this new digital culture amongst teams is completely different, not to mention the way you lead a team, right? So ethical and digital leadership in this new globalized environment is also very important. So I know these are big terms, but the question was quite complex. So I would say to emphasize and to summarize, it's the people, the process, and then that part that we have to think about the negative aspects too. There are a few that we need to mitigate against.
Definitely. How about millennials? How about new bright people who are looking to contribute and take advantage of these new waves of technology that we're all in? So where do you see them with culture of them and us, with the rest of us, right, entering this world in a way that they live with digital technology? They don't believe the stories. What do you mean you didn't have internet when you were growing up? So point is, right, as much as we're cool around here, but it's different mentality, and we raise these different thinkers, the way the technology shaped all of us. So where do you see them kind of having fun in this new world and not being in the corner of, if you're not very vocal on Zoom call in your coworkers, or kind of finding your way through all these exciting times?
Well, I happen to believe that we can all learn from each other. And I was very fortunate that I've always worked with not only millennials, but even Gen Zs. And I can always learn from them, and they teach me a lot. I also can teach them a lot. So I think I see this as a bi-directional, beautiful relationship, and we don't have to put anybody in any silos or have preconceived notions. The same way I can actually share that a kindergartner can teach us all. They're gonna be even better than millennials. I know a lot of super young kids who are gonna find extremely creative ways to solve a problem that none of us at any other age can solve. So I always say, you just gave the example of a millennial, but there will always be someone younger who will have a better way to solve a problem, because like Einstein said, right, you cannot solve a problem that you created, but new generations can always think about what we call out of the box. It's just that they're really out of the generation solutions, even better than the box, right? But definitely, I personally embrace any interaction with any generation. The same way we can learn also from the previous generations, right? They have some good things to tell us, even if what we should not necessarily do, but you still can learn something. But that's the more ideologic answer. On the other hand, I do think, yes, that the next decade and the next century will highlight even more that a new type of intelligence, like the digital intelligence, and a new type of skills are gonna have to be redefined, because even the way we measure performance and the types of skills we used to even have a word for, they're completely different now. To know how to set up your Alexa without even instructions is a very different skill than we were ever accustomed to. So most people say they need an instruction manual. Well, you give it to a 10-year-old, they're gonna do it without any instruction manual and without any certification or any class, right? So I think, in my view, it's a great opportunity that we can embrace. We can learn from each other. We should push everybody to have digital literacy and digital fluency as part of their daily life. And I am a big advocate for that. I actually think also the geriatric demographic can be taught, but very differently, right? So I think millennials can be a great asset in any team. And like I said, even Gen Zs, great asset. And I do not consider it a problem. I think we should look up to them and learn from them. That's my opinion.
Absolutely, and it's us, right? It's us humans, you know, older, younger, with different experiences. I love the way you kind of approached the answer, meaning that...
One more tiny story, because you mentioned we grew up without computer, to encourage people to not feel hopeless, that when you think about emerging technologies, you feel that, how am I going to ever catch up to all these new gadgets? When I came to the United States, I had never seen a computer. I had never seen an ATM ever. And I did just fine. I had never even seen a credit card. And I was able to adjust. And now I'm in charge of teaching business technology in the university. So it's certainly doable. I'm a great example. So I just want to encourage everybody to not feel pessimistic when they see that a new technology is on the horizon and they have to learn to use it. Just a little story.
Inspiring, inspiring. And I know you're a faculty member now. I know you're interacting with your students. And where do you find the most excitement coming from? I mean, what's really on the mind? Because again, younger generations, we want them to think about, where do I get a job, right? How I'm gonna succeed in this world. But at the same time, it's a new people who want to have fun. So where is this fun and games and serious business is gonna converge at some point, do you think?
Absolutely. And I think that's the part that is exciting to me to teach, because the young generation keeps you on your tippy toes mentally and in terms of interaction, right? They have constant questions and they want to break all the silos, and they expect, you mentioned games, right? They expect the same type of interaction and the same type of instant gratification and engagement like in video games and in the entertainment industry. And I think we have to break these silos that we've had traditionally for several hundred years now, that we have this academic environment and this corporate environment, and that we're deploying technologies in a very business-like manner. What I see in the young generation is they just want to break all that silo and think about it in a 360 approach. And definitely it has to be highly rewarding and engaging, and in a way that suits their needs, not what we come up with in a boardroom or in a perfectly planned deployment scenario and in a strategic roadmap. That does not fit this generation. They want to interact with it exactly the same way like they go to any video arcade or when they play anything in their living room. And the other part that I would say is integration with all the AR, VR, XR technologies is an expectation now. Engaging with all your senses. Just being on a screen like we are now would not be considered always too exciting, right? So I think if we had now a part where they could engage in virtual reality with us, that sounds already better. If we could have a hologram, right? If you could have me holographically appear in everybody's living room, it starts to sound very different. And as a matter of fact, there are companies that are very forward-looking who have also tried to change the way we do conferences, the way we do online teaching. There are several companies who now, even for universities, offer AR, VR, XR. And several universities have started to, particularly in more technical and scientifically based environments, teach the students highly interactive. You can touch, feel, extract stuff from your screen. And that's what the expectation is these days. Static, one-dimensional or one-sensory experience is not going to cut it anymore.
Beautiful, beautiful. We're kind of touching on industries coming together, and what we were taught by kind of industry 2.0 and 3.0 world. Again, you mentioned silos in skills, silos in opportunities, silos in thinking. All right, all this, cease to exist right now, because frankly, when I look at Amazon Go store, it just pops up in my mind. It excites me, it inspires me, because I see there, it's not just retail experience. I see banking colliding and coming together with how many industries, just in this one example. I see, right, retail, banking,
Absolutely.
finance, entertainment, travel, I don't know, maybe healthcare at some point, because right when doctor prescribes you, right, right, and you go in and you get your product from pharmacy anyways, right? I mean, it's just 5 I can name right now.
Absolutely. I absolutely think, and there are people who are absolutely focused on creating smart cities where, well, can you still hear me? I lost one.
I can hear you well.
So definitely the smart cities concept tries to embrace exactly what you described, that we are going to break all these traditional industry descriptions, and we're going to break all the silos of thinking and the way we build things, the way we interact with all our environment. And specifically, yes, you want to have everything now instantly, the same way like you order on Amazon, right? You don't want it to say, oh, in 6 weeks from now you'll get your package, or yeah, and about 3 months from now you'll get your payment, or in 2 weeks you'll get your food that you ordered, right? So the expectation now is for everything that we do to be instant. And in the future, yes, it will be that you can even have the fridge, an AI algorithm will automatically upload what you need to have in your fridge based on your past shopping pattern. And we have now in retail, right, VR and AI tools that already allow you to try the clothing on in a virtual way at home, and then you don't even have to worry about returning things anymore. And we have cosmetic companies that have clearly gone to the next frontier, where you can do your assessment with an artificial algorithm on your device, and it already tells you what cream you need, what makeup you need, what fits you, what doesn't, and it goes on and on. Definitely the traditional description of food industry or retail or healthcare or banking is all gonna be one. It's gonna merge. And we've seen lately, I don't know if you saw, but Best Buy now is getting into healthcare as well. So we have lots of tech giants trying to break all these traditional boundaries and to get into all kinds of industries that before they would have never touched, right? They were just a supporting foundation, and now they're getting into being proactive and driving that industry. So in the future, you might have your doctor be like Netflix. You can order your doctor, or you can order whatever you want in terms of your interaction with your lawyer on your ATM or on your video game. So you never know how it's going to evolve, but definitely that's the trend, to blur boundaries and to break silos and have it all instant. I think that's where the 5G, and as you know, some people actually already are pushing towards 6G, which is going to be 100 times faster than 5G. We haven't even implemented 5G, and some people already say that if we really are going to want to build these smart cities and have the Internet of Everything function the way we want to, fast, we're going to need 6G. The 5G is not going to be able to handle it either. So that's how when I say that the future is exponential, we haven't even started deploying 5G and everybody's working already, major companies on 6G. And I think that's the part that we have to understand, that before the cycle of new technologies was 25 to 50 years, now it's like 6 months to a year, and already you have a new generation of something coming up, kind of like with the mobile phones, right? Every few months you have a new generation of phones coming out, and they are faster and better and more effective and more efficient. And I think that's what we're going to see with all other elements within our society.
I'm inspired. I'm excited and I'm inspired. You can feel it, I hope. So yeah, thank you. I mean, this has been incredible. This has been an incredible conversation. What excites you now? Any particular area that where you focus your energy these days? Anything you want to share about? Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've been focusing on 3 domains, but one of them I already shared a little bit, the smart cities concept. But within the smart cities, I like to focus on FinTech a lot, because I think financial inclusion and financial drive is gonna be essential. That's the one part that we all have in common. Everybody needs money in this world, and everybody is gonna need to interact with the environment to some measure. Doesn't matter how much money they have, right? But they need to pay for certain goods. And I think by focusing on FinTech, we can actually achieve some of the change. And I see it as a catalyst for other technologies to be able to be adopted at a larger scale. I see it as the umbilical cord, so to speak, to use the medical term, to all the other things that can grow and be then adopted at a larger scale, including artificial intelligence or quantum. We haven't talked about quantum, but for those of you that maybe follow or are interested, quantum computing is the new way, the same way like internet completely changed the way we have the world function. The same way there are some experts who consider quantum computing being the same kind of radical disruptive change compared to what we have right now, just due to the sheer power of computing and the types of things we will be able to compute and model with that type of technology.
Exciting, exciting, absolutely. So smart cities, it's an endless possibilities, because we're looking at AI improving Boston public school system right now, you know, even busing kids
Absolutely.
to school, right?
Yes.
I would imagine, right, all the aspects of education. I would imagine all the food deliveries. I would imagine a lot of things that are happening in the cities. Okay, which are the most exciting trends in smart cities now?
Exactly. Well, I think definitely you mentioned already a few, but even air travel, logistics, shipping, there are several companies now who work to put all our, when you think about the amount of shipping that is going on globally through air and naval shipping and trains and the trucks, if you start to deploy all these augmented intelligence tools together at the same time, you can have this global AI ecosystem that is going to really change the time frame, right? Instead of waiting, I don't know how many weeks, things can be expedited. And then also, besides that, I think the other part in food industry, you see tremendous advancements where these technologies are being deployed not only to deliver food to areas in the world that otherwise would be actually suffering from starvation, but also irrigation systems, creating new food, artificial food, so that you don't have to be dependent on environmental factors anymore. So that's the big push there. So when you think about it from a smart city perspective, I think the big domains that can really radically change the way we function in society now, it's the energy supply, logistics, right? Alternative sources of energy is also an important one that we didn't mention. And then definitely the food and FinTech. I think those are the big clusters, I would say, that will drive this change. And then everything else will follow.
Beautiful, beautiful. So to close our interesting talk today, just real life example, okay? We had a tornado here a few weeks ago in Connecticut, and 800,000 people were left without electricity, and what's even more harmful, without internet for almost a week, which is a major disaster, major in the modern world, right? So we live in very woodsy area. We really like the way we live, but all these trees falling on our exposed wires, all right, it's no fun. So where this predictive analytics, where is AI scanning every single tree for potential risk of kind of causing bigger troubles, because it's unbearable, you know, to see people suffer and to see again economy, local economy suffering from just this one what nature disaster.
That's true, but I would push it a step further, because if you heard, there are people that are actually pushing for internet to be satellite based, so that we don't even have to rely on exposed wires anymore, because there's no way, even if we have AI, I mean, there are too many trees in this world, so that's going to be a gargantuan task. But the other one is actually achievable within max 2 years, to have satellite based internet, and that's where 6G will be important too, and or even 10G soon. Then we don't have to worry anymore. Or underwater cables, as you know, there are the other group of experts in the world is working on completely different type of sources of cables under water, so that we do not have to worry about what you mentioned. But I think people are trying very hard to make us less dependent on the environmental challenges. And this year, Mother Nature has shown us every single, not only hurricanes, but you know, pandemics, and then soon we're going to have a meteorite in a few weeks coming up as well. So I think that the innovators and the futurists in our society are trying to completely extract ourselves from these dependencies and look for alternate ways to manage these daily needs so that we do not have these consequences anymore.
Exactly, beautiful. With all the tech progress, innovation, and achievements, I'm a big believer in humans because we are quite sophisticated machines, I would say. We function under different environmental factors and we succeed. So with that, Ingrid, thank you. Thank you so very much. It's been enormously fun and educational for me, and I hope our audience will agree with me. Thank you. Come back to SaugaTalks with more updates, with more exciting news from the future. Absolutely, always happy to have you here again. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you for the opportunity.